So I was thinking the other day, right? My country, they want to have all electric cars and no petrol, no diesel, no even hybrid cars in 20 years. AKA, England's going to have no car on the road that is a petrol or diesel. It's all going to be electric. Now, is that realistic? Is it possible for every car to be electric?
No, just the workforce and manufacturing alone is that's it just sounds impossible. And then you have to get the oil companies out of it. I mean, that's you say 20 years?
Yeah, so in I think it's 2020, 2040, the new Prime Minister Boris Johnson wants to have all cars electric. Now, just thinking about how many trucks we have that have to travel like hundreds of miles across the UK, how is an electric car going to power up a truck that will last for like, say, 12 hours? And then when he stops in the middle of the highway on like an 80-mile road, like motorway, where they're going to be like a random electric charging socket along the way. Like, and then all the petrol stations will be flooded with people trying to charge their car. Every time someone goes to Scotland, for example, from where I live, which is say like 9 hours, how many times they're going to have to stop? Where are they going to stop? There's going to be thousands of cars just randomly parked up. They're going to have to create like fields with like thousands of spaces, solar panels next to it, and have charging points. And that'll be the new petrol station. And then, as you know, oil and gas will go out of business. And then like governments will crumble because they're all funded by like rich oil people. So it's easier said than done. You know, save the planet, make everything electric. Oh, that's lovely. We're going to live forever. Nice, healthy lungs. But the reality is, making electric, like.
Yeah, well, electric's not as clean as everybody thinks either. Well, like you're talking about, just the infrastructure to put in charging stations and all that across the country. That's a multi-year decade problem right there just to run that. And then you have to you have to have all these factories switch over to, it's a totally different technology. So there's not even the workforce available to build this. I mean, not, and you're talking engineers, just factory workers, like, you don't have 100 years. That seems totally implausible.
And then you need to like create solar panels, enough solar panels, which creates time. Then you got the China to get them to make it. And then like, it's like, even when you like have a generator to store the power, that needs energy. That needs energy from another source. So that's like
Right.
Bitcoin. There's so much energy to power the mining for Bitcoin that actually becomes like very bad for the environment because of all the energy that's needed for Bitcoin. It's the same as solar panel stuff. Eventually you need something that will need to be powered by it needs to be powered in order to provide the electricity. That you're just going to go around in circles. Like,
Right. Well, then the next problem you have is you're always going to have the people in charge are going to own the electric. So then the more you need it, the more they're going to charge. So then once it becomes a price thing, then yeah, even if it is better, um, you know, even if it's more sustainable, it's not going to be cheaper, and that's all people really care about. Like, and that's just the truth. I mean, people are preservationists. They care how much they pay to get from here to work. They don't care what they use. Some people do, but
that's the thing, right? If in 25 years all cars have to be electric, how about some guy who's just bought a £200,000 Lamborghini, right? What does he do with that car? He can't just like, because Lamborghinis are going to be like, they're going to be like a waste of money. It's like people buying Bitcoin when it's £1 and they've already bought it for 5 grand. No one's going to buy it. So you've got 200 grand Lamborghini.
right.
As the time approaches, at what point do you stop buying Lamborghinis? Because in 5 years, it's going to be illegal and banned. So no one's going to buy cars pretty much in the next 10 years because most people say have their car for 10 years. It's going to
Exactly.
be worthless. Or government are going to be like, sorry, you can't buy this. You have to buy another one. So then it's like, well, who bails out the cars? Does the government give like a tax rebate of the value of your car so you can get an electric car? And how are companies supposed to stop manufacturing all these cars that they've got lined up all around the world and start creating electric cars? If Nissan is behind the technology, or Ford haven't got that many electric cars, what the fuck are they going to do? They can't just suddenly make all these cars. They need to test it and then demonstrate it and then make sure it works fine. And then what happens if there's problems and there's a water leak? And then and then all these other cars that they've got, where are all the cars going to go? Just going to go scrap yards? Like, Got
Yeah.
fucking billions of cars. Where are they going to go?
Yeah.
It's just so unrealistic.
And you're not, so, and it also means you would have to stop making one. And then, so for 10 years, you're not going to have a new vehicle. And then, like, okay, say me, I'm in the construction industry, you know, a ton of big trucks, to haul things, a ton of, large flatbeds. How do you replace that? I mean, there's a difference between an electric motor that can get a Fiat around as opposed to a large truck with pulling a trailer with a bulldozer on it. That's a huge leap in technology that we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, it's like it's like cryptocurrency. Everyone's just like buying into it, and really no one has a clue like how it's actually going to fit into society. Like it's banned pretty much everywhere. So it's like when you regulate it, what happens then? It's like when you legalize cannabis, do you release everyone in prison that's been to prison on a cannabis charge? Because
Right.
if it's now not a law, and the only reason why they were in prison is because it was a law, technically anyone who's been in possession of cannabis should be let out. So does that mean you let everybody out? Technically, yes, because it's not technically a law anymore.
Right.
Like electric cars, it's just, I do believe that everyone's house is going to have, everyone's going to become energy independent. Where we'll have our own solar panels, we'll have our own generator. We won't rely on big companies to provide electricity. We'll just have our own. And for some, like, technology will be so energy efficient that the energy you have from your solar panel will be enough to power
Well, that's
it.
true. Yeah.
We won't have like massive big TVs back in the day where it just took so much energy. We will be able to have enough energy. Like there'll be windmills on the roof, there'll be solar panels. We will become independent where we won't rely on corporations for like food or governments. It's just we'll become a small tribe to a big tribe, back down to a small tribe. Yeah. Manufacturing of cars will have to stop in say 10 years if people end up having it for 10 years because they're not going to buy a car that they're going to have to sell in 5 years. I mean,
Right.
and where's the government going to get money from to bail out the rest of the value of your car? I mean, it's just bizarre. It's like shooting somebody's head and their brain splatters everywhere. You can't mop up all the blood and all the bone and all the bone fragments that are everywhere. It's just too much. Where do you start? I mean, yeah, obviously it is good because it'll be less noisy and it will be healthier, but it's not realistic, is it really?
No, but I think sometimes you put a huge goal out there that's impossible, and then when you back it off, people are like, okay, I can live with that. Like make it, like you said, make it so overwhelming that people can't get their brain wrapped around it. And then when you back it off, halfway, people are like, okay, I can get with that. Like I can deal with, one electric car per household, maybe put limitations on the gas powered ones, like, so many miles a year, like they come up with some sort of gray area, then people can deal with it. But humans, just by nature, if you start here and then add, automatically, well, I shouldn't say humans. I only know Americans, but we tend to backlash quickly when they add, to our expectations. So if you start here, work your way down.
That's the thing. I think that, this is all to do with like climate change and stuff, whether it's human related or not, irrelevant. It's to do with climate change. And I think that all this is about keeping the planet strong for the next generation and humans beyond us. So it's like we are doing something in 20 years, which is supposed to affect the billions of years on the planet. And you can't just, if we've evolved to this point over time, you can't just change everything in 20 years. Like
No.
we've gone from like horses to small engines to cars to planes and stuff. You can't just like cut it like that. It's like giving a kid a dummy and then when he's 5 years old, to take it out of his mouth. He's had it for 5 years. He's like, why have you taken my dummy? Like, and you pulled it out and you're basically saying, suck on your thumb or something. Find someone else to suck on. And he's like, but I want the dummy. And it's like, nope. Like,
yeah, no, is exactly right. Yeah, that's what happens when you take. Well, I mean, I guess that's politics. So we don't want to talk politics, but I'm just like, you're exactly right. There's certain things when you start restricting them in a country, people get real. Like, well, we've always had it. That's always the argument. Well, it's always been this way, and I don't know. Maybe we're at the point where we have to be so drastic that this is the only chance we got as just as sustainable planet. I don't know. I wish I was I try to keep that out of my head because it's hard to get up and go to work every day if you're, if you start thinking about the reality of the world. So, you know, you do something frivolous to distract you from it. I mean, that's what the world's about now is distractions, right? I mean, whether it's video games or
Seen
what we're
those?
doing now or TV or movies or whatever, anything to keep me thinking about the reality of the situation.
Have you seen those machines that go in the ocean and they suck up plastic? It's like a little like a square machine boat, and it like creates a current and it sucks up anything, whether it's a twig, a log, a dead body, a shoe. It'll just suck up stuff. So like when boats carry crates of like shoes across the Atlantic Ocean and there's a spill of shoes, it will suck up the shoe. Have you seen that? I heard about that.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it yet. So that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, like how it can just do that. Like just as a principle of like when you cut your grass, it's therapeutic. You see all the grass and then you cut it and you go there, and it's cut. When you see like shit in the ocean, forgetting about humans and global warming and shit, if you see stuff in the ocean and you don't want it there, like a swimming pool net where there's leaves in your pool and you start hooking up the leaves, it's a good feeling. So you've got this
Yeah.
machine going around the ocean and the rivers, sucking
Yeah.
out, twigs and plastic and shit. It's a nice idea when you think about how animals won't choke on it anymore or get caught in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Well, and it just makes it feels like you're making progress. I don't care if it's clear down to the base level of if I go out and kind of just uh, clean out my car a little bit, throw out some trash, dust it off, I feel better about it. I feel like, so I think it's the same thing, just on a giant scale. But then
Absolutely.
I
This is
start,
what. No, no.
well, that's when I start thinking, that's when I try to keep my head from thinking too far because I'm like, okay, we've sucked all this up. Now, where did you put it? Because there's no room for it. And then I start going down that road. So then I try to put that out of my head, you know?
Yeah, like that's what's so important to keep your car tidy and your garage tidy and ordered and your bedroom tidy and ordered because if you can't find what you're looking for, it's going to cause a load of stress. And stress
Yes.
obviously has many negative health effects, but it's a spiral of disaster because then there's no order. So you just go in the garage, there's no space to put things anywhere. So you plonk it over there. And then next week you're like, where the fuck has that gone? And then you go in and plonk that over there. And then like your car, every time you get in your car, you see a refraction of your brain just cluttered and Twix wrappers in the back and then like just shoes in the boot and just bullshit everywhere. And it's so important to have an ordered mind, especially in today's society where everything is
Absolutely.
interlinked. Like you've got a bank app that connects to all the other banks. Facebook's connected to all your other social medias. Every app is connected to each other. And it's like, well, I can't remember all these passwords anyway. And now Facebook is the only option I have of logging into every bloody account. Like, what if that server goes down? How am I going to do anything? And
Right.
yeah, it's just order is so important, isn't it?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's like my job is, I basically, it starts from start to finish. I organize the beginning all the way through. It's all about scheduling and organization. And if I let a couple things get behind, then my brain, like I have to, I even tell people like just exactly what you say. I tell people sometimes like I got to go straighten out my brain. All I got to do is make a couple phone calls, schedule a couple appointments, schedule, a couple meetings, couple deliveries, check some things off a list. Then all of a sudden it feels like, I took 30 pounds off my shoulders and I can go back to work. So your stress is horrible. Horrible. Well, that's why
So
I'm an avid exerciser, and that's exactly why. Like you got to get that brain cleared out because if you exercise hard, your brain almost can't be stressed because it's just trying to survive. It goes into like we got to keep breathing and sweating, and that's why people feel so good when they exercise is because you can't think about stupid shit. Does that make any sense?
yeah, absolutely. So like I have a whiteboard, and whenever I've got like the next stage of my life, for example, I do podcasts, right? If I don't upload the podcast immediately after I've done the call, something else happens. I have to go there. I've got to do here. Now I've got two to upload, and then two becomes three, and it takes half an hour each time. That becomes stressful. And so therefore, you need to be able to manage your load. There's no point doing more podcasts if you can't even manage the uploading
Yeah.
of the one you've done. And
Yep.
having a whiteboard where you have all these thoughts and ideas in your head and you write it down and then you reorder the list of those things in terms of priority, you can now just focus on call that guy, go to the construction yard and do this, check the oil, do this. you don't need to worry about all of that. You can just focus on the top one. Whereas if it's in your head, you can manually think, okay, I've got to do that. But because there's no like evidence or proof of what was I going to do after that, the next step, you've got to go through all your thoughts and then sort of try and align yourself with, okay, what did I say I was going to do? No, it was that. That takes energy. That takes time. That's stressful. Whereas if you write it down, you could just see that that's what I've got to do next. And then you can forget the ones below and just focus on that. Take that off. Focus on that. Again, what's in your head will go round and round in circles, and unless you order it. And you can't order neurons firing up because it's all part of the same current, same circuit. So you fire up one, it's the same as fire up a billion. So writing down, I find, is crucial to keep yourself sane, because you just have all these neurons firing up like a fucking machine gun going. Brrr. It's just like you can't fucking duck. So yeah, ordering your stuff and having a list is the crucial secret for anyone's sanity.
Most people. Now, there are people that their brain doesn't work that way. I'm not one of them. Mine works exactly like. Actually, it's funny you say that, because I was having trouble with that. I'm trying to get my second podcast off the ground. It's a kind of an interview podcast, and so what I was running into is exactly what you're saying. I was taking them as I could. Then I was going to work, and then they were, while I was at work, in my mind, that podcast is just sitting there like teasing me, like, okay, we got it. So then I'd have to get home, and as soon as I got it out there, then I would feel better. And I was starting to bunch everything up out of just necessity, or trying to get product out there. And then finally I'm like, whoa, I got to stop this. You know what I mean? So now I kind of, anytime I talk to guys like you, I take tips, and I kind of saw how you schedule. So I'm like, okay, so now I start scheduling, I start putting days down. I went and bought a whiteboard so I can do exactly what you're talking about, things like that. So everything you're saying, I kind of started implementing here in the last about week and a half, and I've already started hard scheduling people, and I feel that they're more responsive to it also. Just like with you scheduling me at 5:30 and you call at 5:30, that makes me feel great. You know what I mean? That's how my brain works. It's very linear,
Yeah,
so.
I don't believe in time, nor do I believe in calendars. And I also understand that things happen in the moment, whether you like it or not. Like, it's just, everything is about, like a planet orbiting another planet. It comes back around, it hits it like the roulette. It hits it and it comes back, hits it and it comes back. You can always do things in the moment, but in the modern world where everyone's scheduling stuff, they can't do things in the moment. So you're like, right. Okay, well, I either wait for this moment every 3 weeks randomly by chance, or I book things in like everyone else. And I find that if you book things in, things will always come up in the moment for you and someone else, which means that you're probably going to have to cancel the thing on the calendar, because it's all about the real time in the universe and it happening now. But in this industry, or just in life, people always book everything, and you either keep up or get left behind. So you have no choice but to book things, even though I truly believe in the power of the moment. Otherwise, as I said, you'll be trying to wait. Everyone's booked up 3 weeks in advance. I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'm sorry, I'm booked up for 3 weeks. Oh, okay, in 3 weeks I'll come back to you. Oh, I'm booked up for 3 weeks. So you have to book.
I know.
And yeah, having like a schedule of like people when they are in life, just having a schedule and listing when you've got to do things, it keeps yourself in order. You can memorize, you've got to do this and do that in your head. Yeah, but you're constantly going in your head to try and think about what you're doing, which means you're going to tire yourself out, means you're going to have to sleep more, which means you might wake up a bit later and then your whole day's a delay. If you just write out your thoughts, you know what you've got to do tomorrow. There's no time thinking about it. It's just do that, bang.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It is tough to live. It's tough to. I'm not. My personality isn't meant to live in such a structured world, but unfortunately, that's the only way. You could get by, especially for what I do. Like, it's so contrary to my personality. We're constantly on a schedule and times and this and that, and I don't work that way either. But I have to, so I can have a job. It's an ends to a means situation. But the day I retire, like I hope I never look at a clock again, if I'm being honest with you. But
yeah,
I mean,
this brings me back to like how sleep. People set alarms, and you shouldn't be setting alarms. Your brain needs a certain amount of sleep depending on the brain activity that day. If you set an alarm, you might only need an hour more, and the next day you might need 2 hours more. And if you've been a meditative monk, you might only need half an hour more. But that hour difference you miss, half an hour difference you miss, is crucial to your brain. Like, your brain's going to start to deteriorate over time if you keep cutting that sleep cycle short, it's like opening a dishwasher half an hour before it's supposed to be finished. Like, it's clean the dishes, but that steaming at the end is crucial to dry the plates. And everyone is setting alarms because they've got to get up for work, and they go to bed at a certain time because they want to watch TV. And they're getting 6 hours as opposed to, say, 7 hours because they spent that extra hour watching, like, fucking, I don't know, the Tonight Show. But that extra hour is heavily impacting your day. If you had, say, an extra hour's sleep, your day would be so more productive. You'd remember stuff so much easier. You'd be happier. You wouldn't have that lag. You'd be enjoying yourself more. And then when you get home, you wouldn't want to just lay on the couch and then have a nap, and then your sleep cycle's fucked. It is so important to sleep and wake up naturally without an alarm. And all you've got to do is go to bed an hour earlier, or that 15 minutes and an hour earlier until you wake up naturally and you find your soft spot. But even then, sometimes you need more than 8 hours. Like, if I do loads of podcasts, I sleep for 9.5 hours all the way through. Whereas if I've not done anything, I only need 7. There's this myth about how you need 8 hours. You need as much hours as your brain has used. Your iPhone battery, if you've used 50%, you need to charge it to 50%, which takes, say, a half an hour. If you've only used 75%, if you've only used 25%, you need a 15-minute. Our brains are the same. You need to sleep and wake up. When you wake up, when the brain says, I've had enough, you'll get up and you won't be able to sleep anymore. You literally, no matter what you do, how much you toss and turn, your brain just won't sleep. That is when you've had enough. And I know what it was like to not be able to sleep compared to now how I sleep now. Phenomenal difference.
Well, that, and you can't catch up on sleep either. Like people say, like, oh, I need to. You've already lost it. I mean, you can get a good night's sleep, but you can't catch up. Like, I run myself ragged because of how early we work and all that stuff, and you're 100% right. It's a huge mistake. But then now part of it is, it's not even staying up. A lot of times people stay up late. In my mind, I do it because I know when I go to sleep, the next thing I'm going to do is be going to work. And every night, I really don't want to go to work the next day. So my brain's like, well, if we stay up another half hour and watch the end of this movie, we're putting off the inevitable, which it's not a good way to be, but it's the truth. Like, I get up a little early just so I have time to not rush off to work, just so I can kind of hang out for an hour by myself in the morning and put off going to work, the dread of like starting the day. So, but it kills my sleep. You're right. I could easily squeeze in another 2 hours a night. I should.
Yeah, that 2 hours you don't have, you don't probably realize how amazing you would feel if you had that extra 2 hours every single night. I mean, this is for people. People feel so shit all the time with lack of sleep, with cigarette in them, alcohol, shit food in them. It just becomes part of their life, and they don't realize how good they'd feel without all this stuff. Like, people don't really drink water. They constantly drink fizzy drinks and like tea and coffee and everything but water. And you have no idea that every living thing on this planet needs water to survive. You can't feed a plant Red Bull. What would happen to the plant? Like, if you've got your water like me, you feed a plant Diet Coke, you fucking kill it. So imagine what it's doing to our brain. Coke, for example. Like, everyone seems to stay up later to have this extra life that they are not getting because of work. Whereas if you get up an extra hour earlier in the morning, okay, you'll get your sleep because you go to bed at a certain time where you'll wake up naturally, well in advance of work, okay? You'll get your sleep. You have your extra hour to do what you need to do, and then you can start your day already awake and active because you've been on your walk, you've done your hoovering, you've done your ironing at 4:30 in the morning, as opposed to, oh, I've got to fucking do my ironing at 10 at night time, fuck's sake, and you just leave it to the side. Everyone will be so more productive if you get up when the sun rises, because that's when the energy charges the atmosphere. You're not supposed to be like doing stuff when it's dark at 10 at night because everything's shut down. The like EMF is down, so your brain's not got the energy. People need to go to bed earlier, and it means you can't watch the Tonight Show. We'll record it, watch it in the morning. What's the difference between watching it now or 8 hours later? You just got to be smart because the way life is now, everyone's trying to make money to live this life, which is controlled by banks and loans and mortgages. So you're trying to catch up with all this money. You're never going to catch up. They're never going to catch up. You might as well accept that, surrender, and then take control of your life in some form and just do things where you're not going to have much money anyway, but at least you've got kind of a life.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I think that's a great philosophy. That's why I said I'm huge on. I'm a proponent. Obviously, I'm with you. Drink the water, and all the crap that people live on like all day is crazy. All the corn syrup and all that, it drives me insane. And then, I like to exercise. I love to exercise. I like to run. I'm training for a triathlon right now, and that is my uh, clears my brain, makes me feel good. And then I feel like when I have some beers, I earned them, burn a few extra calories. Like I'm not, I won't lie to anybody. So that's kind of my thing that makes me feel better. I'm a big proponent of if people get those get those serotonin levels down with a little bit of exercise, and people would feel immensely better if they would just do it. So I'm a kind of advocate for that. So I see where you're coming from. I'm with you.
What I find amazing is if you look at construction workers, their diet is appalling.
Oh,
Like you
it's
see
it.
them, they're like eating chocolate bar, pack of crisps, a pasty. They've got Mars milkshake. They've got a Red Bull. They're smoking. They're fat. They're sitting down all day. I mean, and you look at their skit and they're negative and they're moaning and they're swearing and they're fucking arguments. I'm
Yeah,
like, you're a cancer and you have no idea. Like, you have no idea. And then you go back to their
uh,
house, shit everywhere, beer bottles everywhere,
yeah,
fucking dogs like dying to go out, hair on the carpet, dust everywhere. They don't hoover. I'm like, you are literally just a robot to the corporation. Like,
yes,
you must feel awful. And they shit all day because they're eating so much shit. They've got an itchy asshole because their diet's so bad that they just end up having a mucky ass and they can't have a shower because they're smelly wankers. And they must be scratching their ass all day and they must stink. Oh my God. Like, I just
yeah.
see it. I'm like, Jesus, they all go to the petrol station and they get their fucking full Mars bars. I'm like,
They
you
live
must
in
be so
them.
constipated and backlog of shit up into your small intestine that you are fucking like, you're going to die. Like, you've no idea. Oh, God. And they play Xbox when they get back because they've had a stressful day. Xbox, fucking Call of Duty, and the stress one. You killed me. You RPG'd me, you bastard. Supposed to be on my team. Rah! And then they have a microwave meal because they can't be asked to cook. So they don't know how to cook. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you've already had about 50 billion calories that day.
Yeah. No, no, I mean, this is what I deal with every day. I mean, I literally live in that world, and you're pretty right. I don't know, it's probably 75%. You're right on. Yeah, at lunch, they stop at the convenience stores in the morning and get you know, their donuts and monsters and all that, and then they might go there at lunch and get their chips and their deli sandwiches and their another monster, and it's yeah, you're
There, there is so much shit in a sandwich. Take out the bread and the ham and the cheese. The added stuff just to make it last that long. Not to mention how bad bread is. I mean, and then the processed cheese and the ham. I mean, that that is you're filling yourself up, so you've satisfied that hunger need. Drink water. When I'm hungry, I fast till 12. I drink water, and that feeling goes away. You're putting that
yep,
stuff in your body. If you put bread in some water, it goes really soggy and puffed, so you feel full up. But then it breaks down, and it's just like mush gone. And then and all of that in your body is so bad. It's not doing anything good for you that you might as well not even have that sandwich. Like you're healthier not eating that sandwich. But everything we say is just becoming so manufactured, and then people want it more because they see it, and then companies make more of it, and it's
oh
like
yeah.
that's the reason why we're buying this because of the adverts, and it becomes about money, and it's like it's like a big bang in human evolution.
Well,
We're
we
all
had
like gonna kill ourselves off, and then we're gonna kill ourselves off. All
oh
this
it's yeah.
shit, it's not natural.
So I brought up that point this week. Obviously, right now, especially in the last couple of days, this coronavirus thing is in America right now is finally like we're shutting everything down. The NBA shut down. It's a huge like that's all that's on the news right now, obviously. And not that it's not a serious thing, but as a side note, I tell people I'm like, well, if we're that worried about public health, how come like we don't do anything about selling tobacco? We don't do anything about putting corn syrup in our food. We don't do anything about the preservatives. We don't do anything about that. Like you can go to the convenience store and put yourself into adult diabetes, and nobody stops that. So how worried are we really about public health? Because those are some easy things that we could cut out, but that never comes up. You can go buy your camels. You just can't go to a sporting event. I don't know.
That's
So
the thing. Many, many, many years ago, I can't remember if it was Spain, Germany, or Italy or whatever, corn was banned and it was considered a public outreach. Like corn is not supposed to be in humans. Like
yeah,
it was banned from the country because it's not supposed to be in us. And you look at wheat and grains and corn and everything's like barley and stuff because it's supposed to be healthy. It's the worst for you. Grains are
yeah.
the worst for you. Lectins. I don't know how much you know about lectins, but lectins
Oh,
the lectins is a sticky sugar molecule in sticky sugar molecule in lectins, and lectins are pretty much in every food basically. They're in grains. They're pretty much in everything. Like we're not
okay.
supposed to eat all the stuff that we eat. We're only supposed to
No.
eat like nuts and berries and shit like that. So anything else is not supposed to be in us. So all this grain stuff, hence why corn syrup is bad for you, is because of the lectins, and it just becomes part of life that you eat this, and you eat it. Corn syrup on your pancakes, it becomes part of life, and because you don't see instant death or instant change in yourself, there's
Right.
no reason to change. And if it's law, companies will use it until it becomes not law. It's just the way it is. Um, you know, are people concerned about public health? In which case, why don't they do stuff about smoking and tobacco and alcohol and stuff? Well, that's the thing. Government's there to just like police everyone. We are
Well,
living our own lives. It's like you can't rely on
agreed.
government to create support groups for fucking alcoholism, gaming problems, drug problems. We're humans living our own life. And it's only when it becomes a problem that the people start wanting change. Then
Uh,
there's action. Apart from that job, you've got your job. You're living your own life. It's just that his job affects your life when that happens. But really, we're on our own. You can't rely on everyone to solve our problems. You've got to take
well,
responsibility for yourself.
I wish people felt that way, but there's no accountability. I mean, most people have no accountability. They're I mean, they just wait to be told what to do, and we're seeing that really extreme right now. Everybody just sits and waits for the next person to tell them what to do. Nobody's acting out. Nobody's trying to. It's I don't know. I mean, I think 20% of the people kind of just are, are self thinkers, but everybody else is kind of followers. I mean, it's sad, but it's true.
Yeah, like if you if your brain is stimulated, it will stimulate a certain part of the brain which can now work out new things and think. The more you think, the more the neurons fire, the more they fire, the more you think, and you just keep thinking and creating. Whereas
Yep.
if you follow your boss, for example, he's doing the thinking for you. Your brain isn't doing anything. It's just command, autopilot. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And then the brain just starts to die. And you don't have the ability to work things out yourself. And you become a robot to the point where you don't even hoover unless somebody says your carpet's a bit disgusting. And
Yeah, exactly.
that's just evolution. You can't teach that. You can't do anything about that. Those people will just die off because if you start trying to empower their brain, they're not going to work for anyone. And then the companies and the corporations don't exist because they only rely on workers to make the money. So it's like one thing has an effect on the other, cause and effect, reaction, action, whatever. You can only put yourself first and do what's right for you because you can't control the other 8 billion humans. Like you can't save every tree in the world that's got a bit of fungus. You can't worry
Yeah.
about what cows are doing in Spain. And the cows in Italy have bloody swine flu, whatever it is, mad cow disease. You can't worry about that. You got to worry about your own feel, what you can see. You can't see all those cows over there. Without technology, we wouldn't know all these other humans existed. We wouldn't know Chinese have slitty eyes and black people are black. We just see us as white, and that's all we see because you would never ever go there. So people need to just focus on the shit they have in front of them. That's why there's so many problems because we're not fixing our own problems. We are focusing on every other fucking problem. Like the coronavirus is bad if it gets me here, but all the cases in China doesn't bother me. None of my business. I'm focusing on me right now. I don't need to know about that. If it affects me right now, then I'll take action accordingly. Who cares what's going on around the world unless I go there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Too many issues.
You know what? I like that philosophy. If everybody would do that, I think we would be better off. But unfortunately, like people like me, like when I go to work today, I'm responsible for making sure that at least two other people have tasks and can do their job so they can make money, so they can, provide for their lives. So by default, I have to be concerned about, other people's actions and what they're doing, whether it's right or wrong. Everybody should be self-motivated and and task oriented and all that, but it's just not how it works.
If
I,
people were to suddenly become aware and think, okay, I'm not happy right now. Why am I unhappy? I don't like my job. I don't like my family member. I don't like the fact that I've not got food in the fridge. I don't like my grass. It's too long. I don't like this person. If they wrote down all their issues and one by one ticked them off, they would free themselves. If they were like, okay, I need to get my shoes from my friend's house. I need to pay that bill. I need to make sure that I get a bigger bin because there's too much rubbish in this bin. If everyone dealt with an issue as it comes in their life, like the podcast, if we do upload them when we do it, you won't have that backlog. People would be so much happier. And yet all that's stopping them from like changing their life is the awareness of they're the only reason why they're not changing their life. And then once they become aware, they just write down all their issues on a piece of paper, tick it off one by one. And yeah, it might take a long time because you've got like 1,000 things to do. Like when I became aware of all this stuff at 21, I was ticking off everything, every problem I was dealing with. It felt like forever. It literally did. And all of a sudden like that, I had no problems because I addressed it all. And so change can only happen now because if you don't do it now, it's only going to get worse. And like your garage when it's cluttered, you've got too much shit. Where do you start? Fuck it, I'll do it tomorrow. And then you've got more shit tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why order is so powerful for the brain because life will just fucking eat you up because it's just, you see these like hoarding programs on TV, like in America. I mean, fuck me. It's like a dump in her house. She has to walk over all this shit to get to her oven. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I've experienced a couple of those in my day, and it is the most frightening thing that I've ever walked into because what makes it crazy is the person living there doesn't know. So everybody else that's standing in the room is totally petrified about what's happening, and the person that lives there is having a conversation as if it's an empty room. It's the weirdest, like spookiest thing like to be a part of. That kind of freaks me out. It gives everybody else in the room's total anxiety, and they're just having a conversation like that. The cat's up here eating macaroni and cheese off their freaking top of the refrigerator and stuff, and they don't even know. It's insane.
But everything that they've ever bought has just stayed in that house. They've not binned anything, and it's like, at what point have you asked yourself, am I going to use this? Where was that fork I saved? That's somewhere under there. Have you not thought, okay, where is the things that I put down that I wanted? So why am I still collecting all this shit when I can't even find the fork? You know what I mean? It's like people are in autopilot and all that. They're just not aware. Like people don't want to live like that. They're just not aware because it's part of their thoughts. So it's part of them. And that's just their house. But someone else comes in and they're like, fuck me. Where am I? Some dump site.
Right. Like, well, self-awareness is probably one of the most important things you can have, and unfortunately, not everybody has it. It's so even to the point to where if you look at yourself in the mirror and like recognize all your flaws or things you're doing wrong or whatever, you still feel better. There's no reason to ignore. Like if I go out and have a run and I was slow as shit, if I just say, well, I was slow, then it's over. I don't have to. I'm not trying to trick myself into an excuse of why. I just like, I'm not in good shape. I need to work a little harder and then move on with my life. There's nothing wrong with self-criticism either. You got to be honest with yourself.
No, like I want to take over James Corden's Late Late Show. I plan to move to America in 3 years and become the next like Tonight Show host, like take over Fallon's talk show, have my own talk show in America. And I can't kid myself just because I have a dream and I want to be on that show that I'm going to get it. You've got to be self-critical. You've got to look in the mirror and be like, are people going to like you? Are they going to watch you? Do you understand the business side to it? Do you understand that you've got to be able to speak to people you've not met before and create conversation? Sometimes they're not going to flow with you and you've got to keep it going. You need to be able to be confident and funny, and they're all elements that you need for that job, for example. And so many people kid themselves, like they want this or they have this dream because they want this dream, and don't tell me I can't make anything possible. Like they go down that path even more because they're like, don't tell me what to do. They don't want to hear self-criticism, which is, mate, you can't sing. You're not going to become a singer. Oliver, you can't have a talk show because you can't talk. You're too quiet, like you don't talk enough. And I'm like, do you know what?
Nobody's ever told you that.
No. So you look in the mirror, it's healthy to look in the mirror and find the things you like about yourself. How good jawline I've got. Fuck me, my eyes are good looking. At the same time, you need to be like, you need to get your shit together. You keep procrastinating. You said you're going to iron those clothes. You've not done it. Go fucking iron those clothes, you lazy prick. You've got to look at yourself in the mirror and not just see the greatness in you, but see the flaws. Become greater. And people are scared to face themselves. So people don't even look in the mirror. They look in the mirror and admire themselves, but they don't look in the mirror and think, my teeth are full of shit. It's about time I brush them. Some people I see, they've got shit in their teeth. I'm like, when did you last look in the mirror? Surely you must know there is shit and black bollocks in between your teeth. Surely you've looked in the mirror. And if you have, why have you not done something about it? And it makes you think, maybe they haven't looked in the mirror. Maybe they haven't looked in the mirror.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the two choices. There's always, they either haven't looked in the mirror. That's even worse. They've looked in the mirror and decided, and that's fine. Like I'm just going to roll with this today. Like, hope I don't see anybody. No, I have a lot of in-depth conversations with myself, just like you're talking about, because you got to be self-motivated. At my age, I don't have a coach. That's going to help me get through things. I mean, I got to be my own coach when it comes to athletics or whatever. So sometimes you'll just catch me, sitting in my car, just having a stern conversation with myself. But you got to do it, get up, you lazy ass. Like it's time to go to the gym or whatever.
Yeah. Example, and holding yourself accountable and knowing that you are going to hold yourself accountable is a crucial element for self-discipline. Like I tell myself, I'm not going to go to bed with anything on my floor because I wake up and I've got to now do it. So I'll make sure I hang things up, make sure that I don't just throw my t-shirt on the floor and I put it in the wash bin. And if I choose not to do it, I hear the voice in my head, get up, you lazy cunt, put that in the wardrobe. There's no excuse. And it's like my father telling me what to do, which is my own voice in my head. And I will go and put it in the wardrobe and make sure that it's hung up. Because I know the consequences is that if I've not got order and there's shit on the floor, I can't think. And I tell myself, I'm not going to treat myself to a Chinese on Friday if I don't hang up my clothes. And because I know I'm going to hold myself accountable, I won't be having a Chinese takeaway if I don't make sure my bedroom's in order. So again, having self-discipline and holding yourself accountable is crucial. And people's willpower these days is pathetic. It doesn't exist. No one holds them accountable. It's like if your parents don't pay you to do it or your boss doesn't pay you to do it, you just sit on that chair and wait for the boss to come. And it's like, dude, what the fuck, man? Pick up the yard to clean. Why are you not doing anything? Or you didn't tell me what to do. Well, are you a fucking retard? Like, don't, you clearly know that I'm paying you to do that. And they're waiting.
You're describing my life.
And ultimately, yeah, you're the boss, you're in charge, they're working for you. If you don't tell them what to do, well, they're working for you, it's your company, they're going to sit there and do fuck all and play Angry Birds. So as much as you want people to do shit, it's either you are leading and getting an extra pay in your salary to lead, they are robots, they're getting paid minimum wage. You have to tell and micromanage people every damn step because they will not do it otherwise. People naturally don't want to be told what to do. A dog that's inquisitive about a smell, if you pull it back, it's going to find the nearest opportunity to go and sniff it. So they are going to want to do what they're going to do until you say don't do it. That's just how human nature works. You tell a monkey not to scratch his ass, it's going to scratch his ass. You tell a kid not to pick its nose, it's going to pick its nose. If you're not telling that construction worker to shovel, he's going to wait and see until you're not looking. He's going to not shovel. The same as a monkey's going to pick his nose when you're not looking. It's just how it works. So unfortunately, if you're leading and you get the shit, you've got to fucking micromanage those robots.
Yeah, but it's exhausting. You're not wrong about any of that. It's exhausting. Because I'm never that way. Like I've never had to be told what to do. I may not I may have to be told how to do something if I'm not sure, but I never have to be told to do something. Like I'm just not made that way. So it's hard for me to, look at another grown professional, and I'm always like, I didn't tell you to tie your shoes today either, but you did that. So like, when do I start telling you, and when do you take over? So it's exhausting, but that's the path I've chosen. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
the role of leadership is take responsibility for everything that happens, because even though you can't control everything, you are responsible for allowing it to happen. So you may not have created it, but by allowing it to happen, you're responsible. And there's always something you can do or put in place to try and prevent it from happening again. There's always going to be something else that happens, but all you can then do is put something in place. And that's what leadership is leading the outcome. You can't expect people to lead if they're not leaders. They're followers. They follow commands, and you either follow and are robots and suffer the consequences of like human brain deterioration where you're not doing anything, or you're somebody who's got an extra bit of pay, who leads, who, because they have an active brain, can do things like marathons and do podcasts and shit like that. But it means that you have to spend your whole day like trying to bring up a child, but in like 10 children, right? You have to tell them exactly what to do, because if you don't, you're going to get in shit. And it's like, would I rather be led or lead? And for me, I'd rather lead 100 people as a choice of being led by some fucking incompetent twat.
Agreed.
And go and play Xbox. And it's just like it is. You have to make it enjoyable if you're leading, because there's no, like, that's your job. So, make them know you personally so they respect you more, as opposed to when you tell them what to do, they don't see it as a threat. Like, people see it as a threat even though that's their job to listen to what you've got to tell them to do. So going on a personal level where they will feel guilty if they don't listen to you creates a rapport, hence why this team building is so important, because it allows you to see different sides of people and you connect on a human level. But also the downside of getting too personal is you lose your authoritativeness of them. Now you can't tell your mates what to do.
Yeah.
And now the whole fucking infrastructure crumbles because there's no one's in charge. So you need that balance of respect. And I'm still the one in charge here. Never forget that.
No, you're right. You can't be friends, like actual friends. You can be acquaintances, but you can't be friends, because then it's I don't know. I don't know. It just all depends. Everybody is so, you just have to read personalities. Every business is about reading personalities, and unfortunately, it's right now with the way the workforce is, you have to cater to personalities because our choices are limited. So it's a tough, it's hard for me because I'm a just go do it. Like, I shouldn't have to tell you to do it kind of person. So I have to kind of fake Karen, if that makes any sense. Like, oh yeah, I see where you're coming from, even though I don't, give two shits, about if their girlfriend threw their clothes on the front yard last night. But if you say that, then they take it personal, and then you've lost them. So, you got to, oh man, that's really something. Well, we got to work through this. Try not to be distracted, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of just straight bullshit in management, but it is what it is.
If it's your own company, you can cherry pick them. But when you're working for a company with a massive chain of command, you have to deal with these fucking idiots.
Yes.
There's nothing you can do. Unless you change jobs, but then it's the same old shit, different day. So again, the option is be that robot, leave these fucking retards, or create your own business. And either one, there's still flaws. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is.
I've done all three, and there's flaws in all of them. Like, I was a business owner for a while now. What you would call probably middle management. I've been on the bottom of, but see, when I was on the bottom of the ladder, I can't. I work my way up too quick just because I'm a self-thinker, self-motivated. That's anybody. It's not bragging. It doesn't take much to excel in blue collar work. So that didn't last. So now I'm kind of in the middle, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
That's the thing. I don't believe you can truly be happy unless you're working for yourself. Because if you're working for yourself, your brain is constantly creating and manifesting, and you feel good and your emotion. Whereas when you work for someone, you can't. Your brain, it's not your brain. Your brain is put aside at home playing Xbox and cooking the dinner. You are in robot mode, and your brain is dying because you're not doing anything, and you're doing something because you have to, rather than because it excites you.
Yep.
You can't be happy unless you're working for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I do the podcast. I love it because I'm in control of it. If it's bad, it's bad. It's on me. We're talking about the accountability. If it's good, I get a rush out of it. An adrenaline rush. But it's still me. I do the producing, and the guest booking. I meet awesome people, but it keeps my brain. That's what even my wife told me. She's like, whatever keeps your brain going. I always got to have something. Whether it's I got like I said, got triathlon training. Got the podcast. There's just always something, to keep, unfortunately, I can work and use 20% of my brain and do a fine job. So I can use the other 80% for just stuff I want to do and stuff I enjoy. And so like stuff like this, I really get a kick out of it.
That's the thing. People's knowledge comes from online around the world. Their knowledge isn't just what you've learned from your mate down the pub. So if you're focused on stuff online, which everyone is, you need to find people who are also focusing on the same stuff online, which means you can't have a stimulating conversation with your mates down the pub or the retard at the construction yard. You need to find these people online because everyone's focusing on stuff online. So everyone's going online to find people to speak about it with. So your brain is so stimulated right now on these types of topics that going to the pub or even to your friend from school, okay, having a conversation with him, dead, nothing there. It's just a dead brain. So this stimulates your brain and keeps your brain active for the next day. Whereas if you didn't have this conversation where your brain's stimulated, you go to work, deal with these fucking idiots, come home, the wife nags, your brain it's not been stimulated in ways that it would, like it is now. And it's crucial. Like, even though we can't see each other, the brain is still firing up the same way it would if you were speaking to your mate next door. And it's the only way to keep people sane. Conversation. Yeah, you got the human side of it, which we're lacking as well. But in terms of brain stimulation, the speed in which I'm speaking, my brain's firing up. I'm charged for the next day. And we need things to look forward to as a reason to keep going. Yep. And also, it's important to be present. But having the brain stimulate like it is now, it's crucial for our health.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Doing things in our head. We're not doing things outside. We're going to become autistic where we can't speak to anybody. We can't even look someone in the eye. That's what an autistic person does. He's in his head. He can't even look you in the eye because he can't handle eye contact because he's not used to it.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's why I do what I do. It's been therapeutic. The last few months of doing this has been it's been pretty awesome, and it's helped me. It's actually helped me in the real world too. When I meet strangers, or I shouldn't say strangers, when I meet people I've never met, I have better conversations because of working on my skills like this right here. So now it's like every time I meet somebody and start having a conversation, next thing you know, it sounds like I'm having a podcast. So, it's helped me in that way too, rather than just going through the motions like, hey, how's the weather? I'll jump into any subject and, it's been great. Yeah.
That's amazing. When you like go and meet your friends, for example, you speak about the mutual thing you have in common, sport, basketball, whatever. I thought to myself the other day, if I sat down next to you and just suddenly said to you, like I said here, what do you think about electric cars? The conversation would flow and it'd be exactly the same.
Yeah.
But what's the reason why it's not? It's circumstantial. They're not used to having such an engaging conversation, even though they would really enjoy it and everyone's thinking about it in their own self. They're not expecting it. So it's out of context. But you can have this conversation with anyone. So it doesn't have to be online to have this conversation. You can just meet a random person at the bus stop and just literally start speaking like this. You can even record it with the podcast, but people aren't expecting it. And if you just speak to anyone about this stuff, anyone has an idea about aliens existing and about stuff. Everyone's thought about it. It's just no one's speaking it. And because most people don't listen to stuff like this online, they just presume that this stuff doesn't exist. But everyone's thinking it, but no one's talking it, and it's just there. Even your mate in like your Walmart person who's at the checkouts, he'd love this conversation.
Yeah.
He thinks about this all day, waiting for fucking Margaret to come past with some fucking corn syrup. Hey man, you got one of me for now? Do you want a bag of this? And he's going back to like aliens and how the fuck did aliens get there? Like, what is this? Oh, hello man. What? How many bags would you like for chewing gum? I don't need a fucking bag for chewing gum, mate. I can carry it myself. Oh, okay, yeah, have a good day.
No, you're exactly right. So that's and I kind of practice it. I try to get that out of people. I don't ask them. I try not to ask the menial stuff or whatever. I try to bring up a subject and get their take on it. And it's I've kind of learned that from these. And you're 100% right. Everybody's what I've found out is there's a lot of really people are more interesting and they're more intelligent than anybody would ever imagine, but it's all inside. They don't have anybody to share it with, or maybe they're sharing it on a blog or a message board or whatever, but they're not. If you just say something, it's amazing how many people have an opinion on it, and you can have a good conversation about it. But if you don't say it, like you said, it's just there. I love that philosophy. It's in my head now. I'm going to write that on my board. Like it's just there if you don't say it.
Like everyone's human. We're all thinking the same thoughts. Our thoughts are made up of what we see, smell, taste, touch in front of us. Anything else, if a friend comes into your mind, that's someone else thinking about you. That's his thought. Every pair of Nike trainers or Dr. Dre Beats earphones, somebody else's thought is put into your mind. If all of our thoughts are not even our own, then everyone's thinking the same thing. Everyone's questioned about aliens, afterlife, reincarnation, chicken or the egg, if God was a lesbian. They've all thought about that, and they all have an opinion on it. They can all speak for hours about it, but they think no one's going to speak about it because who cares about whether God was a lesbian? Actually, it's not about whether he was or not. It's about having a good conversation, having a laugh about whether he was a lesbian. And that's what it comes down to, just feeling good by opening your mouth. It doesn't matter what you're saying. It's just sound vibrations that feel good.
Yeah, but you have to not be defensive. And that's the problem you run into, especially like just particularly where I live. Everybody's so defensive that instead of having a conversation, even if they agree, disagree, haven't thought about it, it's immediately defensive. And so then you're like, well, now the conversation's over because now you know, we can't have a rational conversation and have two different viewpoints. Now we have to argue. I don't know if that's an American thing or a world thing. I imagine it's a world thing, but and so it's like, well, I don't want to argue. I just want to have a intelligent conversation about it. I don't, not tell you you're wrong and you tell me I'm wrong, and then we go about our way. That's no fun.
That's the thing. We have 50,000 things in common we can speak about, right? And then we also have 50,000 things that we disagree on and that we don't think the same on. So everyone has equally the amount of things that you'll agree and not agree. All you have to do is speak about the things you agree on. Yeah. So, for example, what do you like? Oh, I like baseball. Okay, and you go into baseball, and that goes into Pokemon cards, and that goes into Pokemon Go, and that goes into Digimon when you were a kid. And then you've had an hour conversation like us of being in harmony. Whereas, for example, if you have a certain way or political view or religious view or whatever, we could spend hours debating about the Bible and how you think it's real and I think it's not real. And that's argument. That doesn't feel good. I'm not laughing. I'm tense. I'm trying to get my point out. And you're getting stressed how you think Bible was real. And I'm saying, no, it wasn't. And then you're arguing. So you don't feel good. You're not
exactly.
So it's like you either tense and try and take a shit or you let it flow. That's two choices. Let it flow. It feels good and it's out. So again, if people found the common ground, everyone has the common ground. Even your construction workers, they piss you off how they're retarded and how they can't do things like you're telling them. But you speak about how they love their grandparent or they've got a disabled auntie. You've got a disabled auntie. Now you connect with how you love that lady, how you enjoy pushing her in the wheelchair. It's a pain in the ass going up a hill, but you enjoy taking her out for lunch. And then you can connect. And all of a sudden, fuck me, I've really connected with this human. And it doesn't matter whether you don't like football or that's irrelevant, or whether you believe corn syrup should be banned or not. And then whether they're fat or they're black, it doesn't matter because you just connected to the hour in such an amazing way, which you've probably never really done in your life. Like how often have you had a conversation for even half an hour with someone where you just it's just flowed. There's no arguments. Like no one speaks fucking for 10 minutes anymore, let alone half an hour. And if they do it, bollocks.
Well, the next step of that too is you start the exact way you're talking about. Well, what's nice about that is once you find the common ground, once you've come together, after half an hour, you can start spilling over into some real controversial stuff. But now that you've built that trust, then you can start having some discourse rather than just arguing about these really important subjects. And then that's, and every now and then you get a little like, oh, I never saw it that way, or that's a good point, or things like that. So then you can let it spill over. But if you start with the controversial, it never goes anywhere. You're like, well, I don't like you, you don't like me, blah blah blah. And as to where if you start from the good and go out, then maybe instead of 50% of stuff you have in common, maybe you're to 60%, over a couple of weeks time. So, that's how you can, that's how we can grow. That's how we can get better.
That's the thing. Life is energy. Magnets attract, magnets repel. If you want to come together with someone, by arguing, you're repelling, you're using force, you're pushing them away. And so you're not going to attract them. Whereas if you attract them on things that you're in harmony with, that attract you, okay, you connect. Okay, now you're connected, you've had that rapport. Now, for example, when you disagree, you only repel a little bit. Okay, you only repel a little bit because you've already come together. Whereas if you meet somebody, you're so far away because you don't know them. If you try and find things that you disagree on, you're just going to push them further away. So when you, for example, you've had that great conversation about football, as soon as somebody has a disagreement, you sort of feel guilty about how you don't see your new friend's point of view. You feel guilty because you feel so good being in harmony. It's like, oh man, I disagree, man. Let me tell you why. And you start smiling. You kind of feel guilty that you now have to let them down, or you now have to tell them that they're wrong because if they're your friend, you don't want them to feel bad. And by telling them they're wrong, they feel bad. So now you're like, oh, buddy, man, I can understand, but let me tell you why. And you're like, go on, tell me why then. And you're open for a difference of opinion because now you kind of respect each other. Whereas if you just go straight to the arguments and the points that you don't agree on, you're pushing them away before you've even attracted them. And often when you get to know these people, you're no different to them. You're no different to them. You're arguing about one thing and there's a million things you have in common. Yeah. And everyone just wants to be right. So
Yep. I wish I disagreed, but I love it. I love everything you're saying.
I find that because I'm all about, these podcasts are about being in harmony in a conversation. It's not about any topics or I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, you're really good at it.
But thanks. But sometimes, right, when you're speaking to someone, disagree because they're so used to disagreeing with people. They're so used to finding disagreements so they can then step up and talk about why they disagree. And if you go down that path and then respond to their disagreement with how you disagree, it will be, I disagree. So once somebody disagrees, don't respond, change the topic, come back. They'll realize that you don't want to talk about disagreements. This is about agreements. And now you naturally start to find common ground. And then they naturally start to listen with the intent of seeing what you mean as opposed to finding reasons that they disagree. It's a mindset. If you wait for the things that you disagree with versus the things that you agree with, there's just as many, but it's on the alternative spectrum. And then all of a sudden they start to say, yeah, I agree, as opposed to I disagree. And it's amazing when I become aware of my skills and my psychology and I've seen you change. And now we've gone down a path where we're now laughing as opposed to tense because you now know that this is about enjoyment. And then when you laugh and you feel good, you don't want to have an argument with your new mate because now you're telling your mate, I disagree. And that's not a nice thing. So this is still, but it's all about being in harmony. Everything in nature is in harmony with each other, apart from humans. Animals in harmony, nature's in harmony, humans are not in harmony.
Well, it goes back to what you say. If people would put the negative Facebook away, put all the negative news and all that away, they'd be surprised that they wouldn't have these contrived subjects to argue about, and they would just have a conversation about whatever happened that day rather than what they were told happened that day. Most people don't experience most of the things they see on the news or on Facebook or everything, but that's what they argue about. Like you say, like we're arguing about stuff that happens halfway around the world. Rather, they could have a conversation about their kids' school program that they went to the night before and decide whether they're going to be a superstar or not. You know what I mean? Like I'd go to work and say like, oh, I had an awesome podcast interview today and we can talk about that rather than go to work and automatically bring up, the coronavirus, like bring up this huge broad subject that you're inundated with all morning long from a million different places. But if I talk about something that just happened to me or just happened to them, then we'll have a nice little conversation. And for even if it's for 15 minutes, the rest of the world's a little more quiet, and you just kind of, chat. Much less stressful.
I've got to wrap this up because I've got another podcast in 15 minutes. So
Oh,
anything you want to plug? Podcast, website, social medias, Pornhub, channel ID, whatever.
Everybody can go to check out my podcast anywhere they got podcasts. Just called Jeff Needs Help. It's just a random interview podcast. It's new. I just have interesting people on like yourself, and we talk about what they like, interesting things, and they tell me about it. And then I've got some, there's some new stuff coming up, but they can find me if they, it's not hard to find people anymore on Facebook and podcasts and all that. So.
Cool. Anything else you want to plug before I stop the call? I'll say about the end, but I'll just stop the recording first.
No, I just want to say thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to press stop and I'll say goodbye.